Hello, we are here again. So, I've got a number of things ahead. I want to give you a little update and you might say a partial retraction of what I did before, but I hope your day is good. This is 9/11, so I think we should always remember things that, we're living in a time of people tearing down statues and trying to do away with history because, history is vital for us to learn to not make the same mistakes again, even though we often do anyway. But 9/11 was a huge attack on this country. Seldom has this country been attacked in the wars. We had one of the worst casualties we have ever experienced in this country was actually the Civil War. We had more lives lost in the Civil War than not only any other war, including World War I, World War II, but then all the others put together. It would be good to remember what happened and pray for our country to be of law and order and to do well. I saw some documentaries a couple of days ago on this that revealed a lot of information about 9/11 that I had never heard of before. I was there, I watched it. And then I saw a lot of things for a few years afterwards, but they're revealing more things now. So, I have an update. Could the flu shot double your risk of COVID-19? Well, let's find out. In the H1N1 pandemic, it did. Those receiving a vaccine ended up between 1.4 to 2.5 times, this is not percent, times more likely to get infected. So what are we talking about? 2.5 times. Could a perfect storm be brewing this fall under the guise of protecting you? Please do not fall into this trap. People who receive the trivalent influenza vaccine, which means a vaccine with 3 components, which essentially also means these components are viruses, a vaccine with 3 viruses. When that was done back during 2008 and 2009 during the flu season, there were between the 1.5 and 2.5 times more likely to get infected with the pandemic of the H1N1, which we didn't react to that like we're doing now. But the point is this correlation with vaccines. So it was more than those who did not get the seasonal flu vaccine. Does this sound familiar, what I've been saying for years? Essentially saying that it weakens you for the next virus that comes around. How many years have I been saying this? Okay, so let's look at a few facts quickly. A double-blind, placebo-controlled study. Now, understand, these are not opinions. These are studies that have been done over and over and over. On ferrets confirmed the results showing the seasonal influenza vaccine did worsen symptoms after subsequent exposure to the virus. A 2011 study found that the seasonal flu vaccine weakened children's immune system and increased chances of getting sick from the flu that was not included in the vaccine. And they're always mutating. Next year, 2012, showed children receiving an inactivated flu vaccine had 4.5 times higher relative risk of contracting non-influenza respiratory virus infections in the 9 months following their inoculation. So how do you translate that? It made you much more susceptible to lung infections, virus or not. The most recent study in 2020 found that people were 36% more likely to get some form of coronavirus infection if they had been vaccinated against the flu. Duh, that's this year. What are we saying? 36% more likely to get the coronavirus if you have been vaccinated. And what are they fixing to push? Everybody's got to get vaccinated so that you are more vulnerable if they don't give it to you right away, and then you're more vulnerable to the other strains. Could a perfect storm be brewing ready to unleash this fall. If the regular influenza season ends up converging with a resurgence of COVID-2, which they're saying, and COVID-3, the results are anyone's guess at this point, according to professionals. It's not a guess according to the studies. Worse, evidence that flu vaccinations increase people's risk of other viral infections is what the studies show year in and year out. So listen to this. Then I'll point out an important factor. Last June, I'm going another direction here. In the Science editorial, Michael Osterholm, remember I talked about him and his book not long ago and recommended a book? One of the world's leading respected virologists, also the director for the Center of Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, and Edward, I don't know if I get this name right, Bloggia. So we'll call him Edward, okay? He's the director of the Center for Clinical Epidemiology and Population Health at the Marshfield Clinic Research Institute in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Now, quote, they wrote, there are important differences in the epidemiology of COVID-19 and the seasonal flu, but symptoms overlap. The prospect of a second COVID wave requires planning to ensure optimal influenza vaccines starting in early fall. That's here in a couple of weeks, okay? The optimal timing of the flu vaccination in patients with confirmed COVID-19 is uncertain. Duh. You know, you don't vaccinate people that are already sick to protect them. That's a duh. Everybody's always known that. I hope they don't start lying about that as well. There are no clinical studies on the effects of influenza vaccine in patients with COVID. In other words, if you have COVID, there's no studies on it because they already know it don't work if you already got it. But it may be prudent to delay vaccine administration until after the acute has resolved. Duh. Will there be a perfect storm? Here we go again. Yet we do not know, but we must start preparing. What does that mean? They want to get everybody vaccinated. So watch out for these guys and so many others. Who do you trust these days? Who can you trust? Listen to this title in summary. I'm getting to the point here. False claim is based on published science. This is Osterholm again. So Osterholm stresses there is a false claim that the flu vaccination increases risk of SARS-CoV-2 infection. We just covered that with year after year after year of studies, and here he's contradicting it. But he's saying this because Judy Mikovits, which is the one that came out and told about the pandemic and then the other things that have been revealed that has proven what she said. So he's coming out anti the truth and circulating that online. And that scientists, healthcare providers, and public health leaders must counter these claims with clear evidence-based information on the importance of flu vaccination during the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, many studies, many respected doctors that don't have any bias, Dr. Mercola, you know, biggest dude online, and I also agree, this so-called false claim is a rumor pulled out of thin air, which is so often the case. Osterholm are actually insulting fellow virologists and researchers when slapping a hoax label on such claims. Seeing how there is much published research showing that, yes, flu vaccinations appear to worsen outcomes during viral pandemics. Now, you know, they say things like appears, but they're giving you the facts and the statistics, but they always use those terms. They don't want to totally commit. This has been repeatedly found in studies throughout the years without contradiction until now. Why? Because of the farce that's going on, but without any study to back it up. So their claims and their claims of false science has no studies to back that up. So if Osterholm wanted to be factual and clear, I'm reading another report, this is from Dr. Mercola. They should dissect the actual studies using scientific methods and reasoning and not just dismiss them as a made-up internet hoax You know, that's the claim they do. Anything they don't like, and because this is how society responds, all you got to do is have a naysayer and put it out on the media, and then everybody thinks, oh, they're lying. Why? Because one person said so. They don't check out the backgrounds, they don't check out the facts, they don't check out the studies, the repeated research in many countries around the world. They just say, somebody said they're lying. Oh, then they must be lying. Ugh, don't get me started. So the fact that peer-reviewed studies have come to the conclusion that previous flu vaccines seem to increase, see that word seems, because they consistently come out that way, seem to increase patients' risk of contracting more severe pandemic illness is a least worthy of consideration and review by all the field. So that is the least to consider, but it is priority. There's so many other things. It's very important. I'm not surprised, though, seeing how Osterholm appears to routinely ignore the reality of published science. So in March this year, an interview with Joe Rogan, in which the question SARS-2 came up, which means COVID-2, the second strain. Osterholm stated that we could not have a crafted virus like this. It is just not possible. I mean, we don't have the creative imagination or skill set. He really said that? All right. This simply does not line up with reality. Again, published research shows that we clearly have the technology, know-how, and creative imagination to create SARS-2, SARS-3, the first one, and on, and have had that capability, at least as far as the public knows, for over 20 years. 20 years. The flu vaccine increased pandemic H1N1. You understand? The flu vaccine increased risk of the pandemic, the H1N1 pandemic. Anyone that comes along, any seasonal flu virus, if you just read between the lines, they're saying the same thing over and over. So, what's the basis for these claims? Research has raised questions about flu vaccinations and their impact on pandemic viral illnesses, include a 2010 review. A Canadian influenza expert with the Center of Disease Control in British Columbia. A lot of times you got to go outside the country to get a non-biased perspective, which found the seasonal flu vaccine increased people's risk of getting sick with the seasonal flu or any other pandemic flu that came along, resulting in a more serious bout of illness. Not only that you get it, but when you get it, it's a more serious illness. Sounds like I'm repeating myself, doesn't it? It is because the studies in different countries keep coming up with the same results. Maybe there's something to it. Or should we just believe the news media and sound bites by so-called experts versus actual studies? In all 5 observational studies conducted across several Canadian provinces, and I'm not getting into all the other countries, had identical results. They have no contradicting results. These findings confirm data from Canada, also Hong Kong, also Australian studies. And remember, it was an Australian lab that first proved that COVID-19 was manipulated in a lab without a doubt. They did their peer-reviewed articles, and they have not been scientifically challenged, not even one time, on the results by any lab in any country in the world. So these other studies show the data indicates if you get the flu vaccine, or even just the seasonal flu vaccine, you get less broad protection than if you just get the natural infection. Do I need to say that again? Okay. If you get the flu vaccine, which one? Any. If you get the flu vaccine, you get less broad protection. Isn't that the reason you go get one? You want protection? Than if you just get the natural infection. And then if you just get the natural flu. Think about that. Let it soak in. The studies reveal that in general, you perversely set yourselves up. that if something really new and nasty comes along, that people already vaccinated may in fact be more susceptible compared to getting the infection naturally. That's not my opinion. I'm reading the summation of all these different studies. Now, I need to clear up something that I discovered this week. I told you what Dr. Osterholm said, plus what he is touting in the media. I recently suggested his book as an international expert virologist and medical detective. That's what he's known for. Where 15 years ago, he said there would be a catastrophic virus come from China that would turn the USA upside down. Well, that sounded good. Sounded like he knows what he's talking about. He predicted it right on time. You know, it was bullseye. But thinking about it in light of other things he's saying now, sounds like he's a team player for the plandemic. And it's interesting that research verified has shown that it was 15 years ago this worldwide pandemic was planned by leading globalists and China and 196 nations signing an agreement. In 2019, last year, the international meeting of these globalists provided pamphlets and some details, which I have those on the other site. I've told you about that several times. People want to form their opinion, but you don't go check out the facts. Check out the facts. Commencing the, quote, lethal pandemic exercise in 2020. I know it sounds crazy. When I found out, it sounded crazy. I didn't want to believe it. It's like surreal. But the evidence is overwhelming. It's not hearsay. It's not opinion. It's from their own mouth. There's videos with it coming out of their mouth. There's their pamphlets. Well, that aligns with Dr. Osterholm's prediction 15 years prior, and what he's saying today is aligned with the globalist media releases and sound bites. So I retract my suggestion and opinion of him. Another one that can't be trusted to tell the truth and the whole truth, so it's not misleading. People can tell a piece of the truth that makes it very misleading in the context. You got to be careful about that. You know my opinion about vaccines and why. Yes? It's never changed. Do I really need to say anything about not getting the COVID vaccine when it comes out? I would want it over any other vaccines to be left out. Now, that over all other vaccines throughout history, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I think has higher risk with all the things that I have been talking about, and you can go back and check those out, for multiple reasons. It's just too risky. I would not do it, period. Now I have a couple other things to talk about. But first let me repeat it concerning, what do we do? So what do we do? There's flu, there's some people are at high risk. If you have children you love, elders you love, what do we do? I'll repeat it. And to let you know, this was on the Informational Shorts video number 3, which is online. What is it? Number 3 sequence. Isn't that interesting? The number 3 on the number 3 video, and that's the sequence you do. It will work. If really challenged, add sea herb. I've talked about that. Sea herb with TKM. Watch the video 3 for detail. Also support it with kidney. Kidney is not priority, but it needs that support. I'm still getting contacted by different people with COVID and suspected COVID if they have symptoms, but they haven't proved that it's COVID. That's what I mean. Not one has been sick more than a couple of days after doing what I've said. Nice thing is they contact right away. They may need to finish getting all the strength back for another day or two, but nothing worse has happened to any single one of them. Praise God. Awesome. I have by the way, have you noticed there is a sequence here, low back pain number 3. But I got a quick note here for a product named Active PK. I don't know if you're familiar with, but you have an enzyme in your body, AMPK. AMPK. So there's a revolutionary formula. Let me go through this quick and then give you the punchline. Designed to help fight fatigue, abdominal fat. Abdominal fat? Ooh, sounds like a needs to be on the cover of the magazines at all your checkout counters. So you can enjoy a stronger, slimmer feeling body. Formula works using natural compounds to help activate your own AMPK, your metabolic master switch, which tells your body to stop storing fat, start converting it into clean, usable fuel. This can lead to more energy, fewer cravings, slimmer waistline. So this product called Active PK, and there's many others. I'm not just talking about this one. I'm using this one for an example. They boost energy naturally, promote clearer thinking, help minimize cravings, all of this other stuff. Your body's natural metabolic master switch, right? So it is fighting the 3 F's. What do you mean? Fat, fatigue, and foggy thinking, to help you enjoy natural, no crash energy boost. So what else does it do? Let me give you, I did some research. Sounds good, right? Nothing bad. Okay, so the scientific research shows that it is a natural enzyme in your body, and the supplement is to activate that enzyme so your body is producing more of it. This is one that your body actually produces, manufactures, which also shows to extend life. It didn't say that in the supplement, but the research does. 30% when they experimented with fruit flies. So let's bump it up to mice. 39% it increases. Well, this sounds like very, very good news. Fountain of youth. Research also shows that it actually helps protect your body from cancer. Whoa! But there is, and I quote, in the research, medical research, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde scenario. In short, it does great things, but if a person has cancer, it will turn into Mr. Hyde, the same enzyme, and protect the cancer and cancer cells and not the person. So what's the results? It protects the cancer, which results in growth of cancer and more likely to metastasize. It's very dangerous. Stay away from it. It's way too risky. I mean, come on. Everybody's got cancer cells. Everybody's got carcinogens. How many people you know of that knew when they got cancer? 0. Sometimes you eat up with it. It's metastasizing. It's spread all over the body before you can get diagnosed, before you have symptoms. So it's just not worth the risk. Want to talk about this guy? Let's do it. Now let's look at this. It is not a long sequence, but it needs some explanation. So if you'll notice, let's see here, we've got 2 steps basically. But both hands move on both steps. So in step 1, you're holding your left hand, now this is left sequence. Left sequence set on left side. Your left hand is holding the left 7. The big toe. And the right hand is holding left side 25 area, meaning pain area. So if you'll notice what's happening here is it hurts when it's pressed, so that's helping find exactly where it's at. And stay there until the pain stops. It's optional depending on the areas of pain. So you do this procedure, but where it is, and what this is talking about is, I'm going to listen to what I'm saying and see if you can ad-lib to this. So this says low back pain, number 3. We've already had number 1, number 2. This is number 3. How you can use this for some different things. So as I was talking about this area here, so that's the side, the same thing as what we're doing here. But we're going to come over here, and you can use it in here. See these pathways that are coming up across? I guess I could have put these long straight lines, they're identifiers. These other black lines, they're energy pathways. This thick one is a non-functioning. It's an area of pain. Going up the side of the sacrum, dealing with lower lumbar, also dealing with out here, what I've called many times, because here's your 25, right? There's your 25. So this is what we call the lateral 25. So wherever the pain is, especially when you touch and there's pain, that's the area that you go to while you're doing the sequence. This is just a view of the same thing it's showing over there. So while you're doing the sequence, what you do is you hold that area of pain while you're holding the 7. Okay, can you see that all right? While you're holding the 7. Now when you get through with that, you move both hands. Step 2, the left hand goes to the right 13. If you'll notice, this is colored a little different here because it says step 2, step 13 area. It is below the rib where it bulges. So when this is really chronic, this area can be disturbed as well. And hold that. You could have a bulging rib. If you don't have the bulging rib, the rib could be tender, or the tissue, the muscles and tissue in the area could be tender and painful. What do you do with the other hand? So the left hand goes to the right 13, and the right goes to the left 12 area. Why area instead of right on the 12? Because it is the horizontal tense line of the pain or stiffness. We're talking about this area. So it's pointed here, so it's more to the back, not out here to the side. Because what? Here's your 12, but we're talking about essentially these tendons and ligaments that are coming down through here. That's why I have those lines coming down through it, and I've got the dot that you basically hold this area. It develops tense line on the left side, back of the neck in the 12 area. You want to get that whole area open. That's it. 2-step process. Isn't that awesome? Now the question is, what does it make you think of? Look at where the pain is. Look at what else you're also working, and you're bringing it down. So I want to bring up a couple other things. You could also use this for sciatica. It also can relate to knee pain, is also eliminated by treating lower back pain. This procedure helps knee pain. You see the pathways that come through here? Now the ones that are dashed, if you can see those, the ones that are dashed through here, they're showing as those to the other side of the body. So that's why I came over here and put it solid over here. Now these are giving different areas. And where do we have sciatica pain? Up through this area. When there's knee pain, there is a hardened vertical line along the 9 and 10. So that's your confirmation. Knee pain is eliminated when the energy spheres 9 and 10 are open, when you get them coherent, or open, open, open. So the point is, that 2-step sequence is not only for low back pain and doing those things, but also helps sciatica, also helps knee pain. It's also pointing to your 9 and 10 as culprit for these things. It is quite encompassing. I love that. So there's going to be much more, and I'm excited because I had one more thing. This is a burn testimony for TKM. Hopefully you can see these pictures. This poor guy, he had a, let me pull this up where I can see it. His name is Justin, in Kansas City, had a car radiator blow up in his face. My goodness. And it was burned mostly on his face and neck, a little bit here as you can see. Was taken to the ER immediately, where Andrea, his mother-in-law, if Andrea's out there, great, awesome, started palming calves right away after arriving to the hospital. So there was a delay, because the faster you do this, the faster recovery. So they proceeded, and then she applied the procedure for about 4 hours. They were going to transfer him to a burn unit because it was so severe. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's really bad. I mean, it's getting like dark purple. What happened is, after she was doing this for so long, he asked him to take him off the pain medication that he was on, being administered through an IV, because he believed he was feeling greater relief from palming calves. Greater relief from palming calves. So they did. He insisted that, and after 1 hour they were checking with him without the 1 hour without the medication, and he still had no pain. So he requested to be released to go home. And of course they're thinking, are you crazy? You need to go to the burn unit. So he insisted, they left. So this was about 5 hours after arriving to the ER, and with continuous TKM, the ER doctor and staff were baffled and amazed, therefore canceled the transfer and released him. He was released for proper protocol for such a case, like what to do for the burns, but TKM was applied for only a couple hours each day. That's not what I would suggest. That's not what we do. You want to do that like ICU. You want to do it all the time. Now, I hope you can see this. This burn is severe. If you can see the face, now this is a few days after. Let me give this to you. This right here, this is the day after he was burned. So not the day of. This right here is the day after. This is the third day. Both of these is the third day. And then in 9 days, he had full recovery. Awesome. So God bless you. Be well. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.